Welcome everybody to this month's, which in this space is normally our container cloud development and open source community. Using AI to create software and just things that Alexis you were telling me about. I think we have to. This is going to be kind of an ongoing, expansive conversation. So look forward to seeing the presentation. We'll share other things happening at WITI this week later, and we'll definitely have time for Q&A. So Alexis, over to you.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Alex Yushin, and today I will tell you about my journey of learning how to use AI for the software development. And the question is, how do I use AI to build real software, not just some game of Tetris or a game of chess or something exemplary, but software that I can later use. So I'll talk a little bit about my background, some things about the future of software at all, productivity, rapid software development. Then I'll give you a presentation of how the flows actually works, what is my workflow to build software. And we'll wrap it up with the summary and a conversation about the use of AI workshops. So first of all, a little bit of background myself. I started coding at the age of 12 in Ukraine. I was an internet pioneer there. When I was 19, I was invited to come to the Netherlands. I was internet pioneer in the Netherlands, kind of first software developer. I built a lot of software in my life, created NSD, was CTO of a couple of startups. Then I got completely tired of that. I became an airline pilot. And about 5 years ago, I switched back to software. And the reason that I switched back to software, because I got so excited after 10 years of being in the airlines, I looked at the state of the technologies. I got so excited about how productive modern technologies were. This was before the AI, and how quickly I could build things pretty much by myself, which is with a team of just a few people, how quickly I could build things that would take me 10 years ago, maybe a year, and a team of 20. So, and I also got very disappointed with the state of the industry 5 years ago, that there were so many software development companies that were charging customer per hour, doing these endless projects, reinventing the wheel over and over again, instead of leveraging these great technologies. So then I started my company, Apexive.com, and our promise was and still is kind of that we are a rapid software development company and we can build something in weeks instead of months. And over the period of, I don't know, 5 years maybe, we have proven that it actually works. You can build quality software very quickly in weeks instead of months. We completed over 30 projects with a very small team. And kind of this was our process. We start with the product discovery, and then we start doing things in parallel. And instead of doing this weekly sprints, our sprints were sometimes half a day, sometimes a day. Everything is tightly integrated. And in 2, 3, or 3 to 6 weeks, we had a ready product. And with Apexive, our record time from an idea that somebody came to us with an idea through the user stories UI and putting something to the app stores across platform app, it was just 1 week. And if you've built any software before, you know that this is absolutely crazy, because sometimes it takes just 1 week for everybody to understand what we are doing. But we managed to actually finish the entire project and publish it to the app stores in 1 week. And that was driving me always. You know, I was thinking, like, we have this amazing technology, we have these frameworks, we have Flutter, we have Django, we have all these open source tools where everything is already built. You just need to use it in a correct way. And this rapid software development was always our thing. Then, I guess, beginning of this year, you know, more and more customers started to come to us and say, like, well, we want AI. The ChatGPT became a thing. we kind of, everybody knew that, yes, we should be able to, the AI should be able to build software for us. But how and when, sometime in the future, well, will it take our job? Yes, it will take, but it's not that good. And one thing happened, I think it was April or May this year, when Claude came up. There are three things were the catalyst. The project knowledge, where you could actually upload your files into Claude and you could use them as a context. A huge context window of 200,000 tokens. So it means that it was able to work with the big amount of information at the same time. And the artifacts, where you could actually work on pieces of something on a document or code in this case. And before that, everything was kind of theoretical because you could use the ChatGPT, you could use the Copilot, but it was a mixed experience. You had a bit of frustration with this. Sometimes it would produce a piece of a good code and then 5 other times not. So kind of we were feeling like, well, we are safe. But with Claude, suddenly things started to work. I was able to get a prompt, get the context, and get really great piece of software that I didn't need to modify, and I could put back into my project. And another thing happened that was honestly quite shocking to me. I started noticing that I'm talking to Claude, to the AI, and I'm interacting with AI the same way as I'm interacting with my team members. I kind of tell them, well, you have to build this. And then the Claude would come back with me with certain answer. Then they'll say like, okay, well, try this, try that. But the iterations with the Claude, of course, were much quicker. If with a team member, especially if it's remote work, it would take sometimes a day, sometimes a week, until you find out that somebody misunderstood you, then they have to redo it again. But with Claude, it was almost instantaneous. At that point, we kind of were a little bit in a shock of what if Claude can do this already. It's not sometime in the future, it's actually happening. What about our job, right? What's about where it's all going? Does it all make any sense, right? How shall we need to change the way we work, or it will have some impact on our business. And or you can see it was actually in March 23. I wrote this article about the future of software. I was really talking to a lot of people, trying to understand the impact of AI on the software industry and trying to understand what's actually happening, right? And the thinking there was that we have traditional software. When I talk about traditional software, it means algorithmic software, right? Where a coder or somebody tries to understand how to solve the problem, then codes it as an algorithm, and then it can repeatedly solve the same problem over and over again. But you can also solve the same problems just with the generative AI or just with the network, where you actually don't need to build any software to have the solution to the same problem. And I think the best example of what I mean is you see here the picture of a game of Doom. And this game is a fully on-demand, real-time, live-generated virtual reality by a model, where the model gets the input from your keyboard and your mouse, and then it generates back the entire game for you, entire situation, and everything that happens in this virtual reality. So that kind of means that if that's the direction things are going, right? So instead of building an accounting software and then hiring a bookkeeper and asking this bookkeeper to do your books, you can just let the model do the whole thing from end to end without needing to build any software at all. That was kind of the thinking back then. And you can read this article if you are interested. It's in our blog, right? I will not spend too much time here. And then you see the quote from there that I think it's self-evident that if there is no traditional software, then there is also no need for traditional software development. So I was wondering, okay, my business? Is it viable? Is it feasible? Is it something that I should be trying to scale? And the answer was kind of yes and no. And I'll go more into the details about what my line of thoughts, my conclusion in the last 6 months where we are. So the first thing, it seems that algorithmic software is a great way of optimizing things, right? So you probably can solve the same problems just in the model, like you have this game, right? But the GPUs are very expensive. And if you want to do something repeatedly as a program in the same way, then you actually want to code it as an algorithm because you optimize the costs, you optimize the resources, but also you increase in accuracy. So when something has to be calculated, you still need to have this traditional software. And if you see now where things are going, if you are talking to ChatGPT and you will ask it to solve some problem that requires analyzing and summing up, it will give you a prompt, analyzing, calculating. And if you open the prompt, you will see it's actually creating a Python code and running this code. And instead of doing this all kind of a mental math, right? So we really see the parallel with this intelligence of AI and intelligence of the humans. And then some things you can do as a kind of a mental math, it's possible, but some things are much better to code and then run this algorithm and come to the solution. So I think that kind of my first relief was that the traditional software is not going away entirely for a while, at least, right? We still need to have this algorithmic software. If it's going to be built by humans, so it's going to be built by AI. That is, of course, not really clear, and that remains to be seen if AI will completely take over of the software development. So then the next thing that came to my mind, as we were a rapid software development agency, was the question, if you talk about software development, what is actually the most important KPI? When you try to say, okay, well, this is a good software development team, this is a good agency, how do you measure that? And my conclusion was that the only thing that matters in software development is productivity. And the productivity can be short-term and long-term, because you can do something quick and dirty, and then discover that you need to create a lot of technical debt and discover that you need to rebuild everything, day after tomorrow, and then it kills your productivity mid-term and long-term. But basically, the productivity you can define as how efficiently a team can solve problems, address customer needs, and deliver sustainable solutions. And the most important thing is sustainable solutions. So something that we can solve today and something will still work tomorrow and will be adaptable to the business needs. So the only thing when building software, really what we care about is productivity, because you don't want to build something over-engineered and over-complex for a simple task. On the other hand, you don't want to cut corners if you know that tomorrow you might need to scale the business, and then you would have to redo everything from scratch. From all of that, I just want to introduce a few concepts about rapid software development. That's basically our blueprint, our tenets of how Apexive was able to build software so quickly. And the first thing that might look a little bit unexpected, we realized that in order to be productive, you need to have good code. Because in contrary to the notion that it's either good or it's quick, right? If you want to be productive continuously, you cannot have rotten apples in your code, right? It's like it's putting the landmines. Of course, the clean architecture, not creating any technical debt. If you know this concept or not, I'm not sure, but the idea of the technical debt is that you can basically cut corners, and if to save time, right? But that's when you need to build a new iteration, you have to do a lot of things. So you're kind of borrowing time from yourself in the future. So if you're doing this software project that only lasts a couple of weeks or a couple of days, then you hit this technical debt almost immediately, right? If we can't cut the corner today, we have to face this problem not in 2 years and somebody else, but we actually have to deal with this very quickly. So these were our tenets of the software, of the rapid software development, and they are really, really applicable for building software with AI. Other things, don't repeat yourself, do not try to reinvent the wheel, build on existing technology, test-driven development. Another technique that we have developed to build software rapidly, it was this Tedler loop. And this was the way how an architect would be working with the software engineers. So the idea is that before you build any feature or any software at all, you need, first of all, before starting to code, you need to think. You need to think about what is that you are trying to build. Once you have an idea of what needs to be built, you need to make sure that you are not reinventing the wheel. So you are researching existing solutions. After that, these solutions are discussed with the software team, because you might have overlooked something. Then you go to development, and then at this point, when you start building something, you need to look for the red flags. And the red flags, for example, we thought something during the discuss phase that we can use technology A, but after you started implementing it, you just realized that technology A doesn't actually work. So then you need to stop and go back to thinking. Or you start building code, and then it becomes over complex or over engineered. Then you need to stop and go back and think. And this loop actually becomes very important if you want to build software with AI. So now, before we go into the actual discussion, I would like to give you a small demonstration how this software building with AI actually works. And I wonder if anybody have any questions in between, then I can answer them. If not, let me show you how this actually works. So I started with an idea that I want to have a showcase of some business feature that I want to implement. And for some reason, I decided that I would like to create a system that will be processing input for IRS tax form, right? So we have this IRS tax form for sure that, let me see if I can open it here. You have this IRS tax form. It has a lot of inputs, and quite often you might need to have some. How do I stop this automation? Okay, here we go. So imagine that our task is that we need to collect the data of this tax form. Maybe we are creating some automation system where we need to have this data collected and then processed somehow. Normally, this would be a task for a team for a couple of weeks. How this works with AI, I'm going to walk you through the exact steps that I have done. Just let me see. So I started with the prompt. Create a bootstrap HTML form as artifacts based on this PDF. I gave the PDF form, and Claude has produced this HTML form that actually can be used in the project already. So the next thing is that this form was in Spanish, so I would like to have this form in English. And I said, okay, make a translation in English. And of course, the Claude created this English form. Because it's an artifact, I can actually use it in my project almost as is. So the next thing that because I want to use this form in a project, I asked to create Odoo Community Edition module to store this form data. And because I have specified that I would like to use a specific framework, which is in Odoo, I was able to, the Claude has generated the entire software form. Then I was a little bit lazy. I said, okay, create commands of how I can create this software. It has created, I was still lazy. I asked it to create a shell script that I can use in order for these files to be created on my computer. At which point I got this module that was created by Claude in my development environment here. And then as the last thing, I said, okay, I would like to have an icon that would be showing me how to use this, that would be associated with this module. And I got it all on my computer. And basically, that was it. Now, the next thing that we have is we have this instance of the open framework Odoo. And all I need to do is to install this module. So here we go, and it should actually appears as my app. I don't want this. So then I need to give myself access. And here we are. So I have the entire text form module from the moment that I had this business requirement production ready in my framework that I can start using. It took me maybe about 15 minutes to build from the input. I did not, I didn't specify the fields. It was just a few prompts. So in just 15 minutes, I've got a production ready system for collecting this data. And of course, somebody that is not technical would not be able to do it in 15 minutes because there are a lot of components that are here required for success. One, if you see here the form first didn't appear, I need to know where to click in the framework. So you need to understand the framework that you're working with. You need to understand the software. You need to understand all of that. But still, the productivity, if you know that, if you are a CTO who understands their technology, it really takes minutes to get something production ready. Now, this is just a basic form, but it should still work. So I can put my name here. I can try to save it. Social security, whatever. Here is the form. So that of course maybe is not really very spectacular, but the next thing is really great. When I want to start working with this form, what I would do, I would use a script called Claude Sync, and I would be able to share this code just with one command with Claude. It gives me here a link, and now I'm able to make any modifications again in minutes. So the productivity, of course, here is really amazing because it's all production ready. It's tested. It's working on top of existing production ready framework. So the next thing that I've done, okay, now I wanted to have this form as a customer portal page, shareable with users. It also gave me this these files. There were a few errors, but basically now we have this ready component, and here how this works. So in order for this to work, I know this was a bit technical, maybe not a bit, but quite technical. So I wanted to show you how it actually works in real time. So in 15 minutes, you can build pretty much an automation or a feature of your software, especially if you have some framework to build on top. So as you know, before this would take us maybe a couple of days. I would have to have an engineer, I would have to have a product manager to understand all these fields. The engineer would start looking at the fields, generate all these fields, create a form, create a user interface, probably misunderstand something, make a couple of round trips. So something like this was taking a couple of days or sometimes even longer. It had to be tested as well, because maybe it wouldn't work. Now it takes minutes. So what I have showed you here is a certain way how you work with AI when you have what we call a human in the loop. So instead of you working in your code editor and you have GitHub Copilot trying to help you how to code, you use AI as your coder and you tell what to build and only help guide your coder into building things in the correct way, rather than doing the work yourself. So the roles kind of changed, right? And what do you like? What it basically means is that there is really no need any longer for somebody who knows how to code in certain language. The job of coding something in HTML, CSS, Python, or any other languages, taking the user requirements and then producing the code, it's already gone. It has been replaced. It is no longer needed. What is needed is somebody who understands the domain, so the subject expert, and somebody who understands the principle of programming. Because if you would try to do the same things, you would not end up with the same results, because the AI would produce, because of the prompt, because of the context, the AI would produce a lot of bullshit. You wouldn't know, if you're not a subject expert, if you're not a technical person, you wouldn't know what you're seeing. You would publish this on Replit, and as you say, bullshit in and bullshit out, you would end up with the bad code. And of course, this kind of experiences is what we see right now, the biggest pushback from the programmers and from the people who try to use AI for the software development. They say, oh, it's not there yet. I just tried to build something and it didn't work, and the code wasn't good. So as you know, today Anthropic announced the release of the improved, I think it's Sonnet 3.5, that's able to control your computer, that's able to go and do things for you using your computer as an interface. And of course, we are all, when we hear this kind of news, we're all kind of worried, okay, when is my job is going to be replaced? And while I think that the job of coders is actually no more, the job of somebody who's curating the AI is probably there to stay for quite a while, because for the sole reason that you still need to have somebody who can be accountable and somebody who can be fireable for the results that you create. So finally, when you look about the software development with AI, there are a lot of rabbit holes. Sometimes you can end up with a lot of frustration. I have learned a few things. First of all, there is no magic. You know, if I would open a prompt and I would say, "Hey, AI, build me a system that will be processing tax forms and store them in a database," I would probably end up with a vanilla solution that would be absolutely throwaway, is not usable. So what you need to give AI a clear context and preferably the examples. Right? So you need to still build on top of some established frameworks. And when you understand how to create just enough context for AI to complete your tasks, that's where you can have good results. Another thing usually is that AI is also, it's not this kind of a magic bullet. So sometimes it works when you see an error message and you try to, you can throw it into Claude and the Claude will explain to you what is wrong with your code. Sometimes it works, but 90% of the cases, if you don't understand what is the problem, the AI will not understand it neither. So you kind of still need to be the smarter person, the software team lead or an architect that's asking the AI to do all the heavy lifting, all the research, but you still need to be the person that understands what's actually going on. And we are all lazy, so quite often, I found myself asking Claude 25 times in different ways why this code doesn't work, and I was getting back exactly the same answer. So we still need human for the critical thinking. So that is how AI can be used. I'd like to summarize this whole conversation. Let's see, how did we get to this point, right? If we talk about the evolution of AI, we started with machine learning, basically data labeling, where the AI could help you find some patterns or differentiate things. Then autocompletes became the GPTs, and that's where we are with the generative AI. And the idea at the moment, the GPTs, even all this code that is being produced, right? Like all these examples that I gave you with Claude, there it's all one-way generation, right? So you give the input and then it goes through the model and you get the output. So of course, many companies now working on recursive AI, which is kind of recursive AI in reasoning, a little bit the same way as our brain is working. When you think about something and you generate some ideas and then you feed it back to the AI and you have this kind of loops. And then finally, potentially all this should become what everybody, this magic word, agents, right? So that would be your software engineer or maybe an architect that now would be able to drive AI like Claude to do things that I'm driving now and understand, have the critical thinking and understand, okay, well, this was code, this code was good, this code wasn't so good. Let's try to simplify, let's try to put it into the working system, let's test it, let's find the error. So that is where we are going. Very interesting that through the experience of talking to AI all the time or working with AI for coding, but particularly with Claude in this way, I got to experience certain almost like not a spiritual experience, but it was really on some non-logical level. I got to experience the edges and of the limitations of the AI. You see that if you go in outside of the context window, you know that that's something, how much of the information the AI is capable to process at once, right? So For example, if you give a huge task, you give a lot of code and you ask to perform, create 10 features at the same time, you can see that AI will still give you an answer, but you can really feel that the intelligence is not capable to comprehend the whole thing, right? And then you just start getting this kind of mediocre answers, and that's how you know that you have reached the limit of the context window. So finally, very interesting. I would like to finish this talk with giving an outlook where we are going with Apexive as a software development company. I don't think that in the future, having a software development company as a business is going to be a thing, because instead you want to have, we're all talking about, 5 people company driving 100 millions of revenue. You want to have your subject matter expert that are able to use technology to solve your company problems. So my vision is that instead of companies outsourcing software development, the companies will have this subject matter experts that are able to drive AI to build the solutions. And part of that, like a CTO of the company or an architect, would be using AI as your entire software development team. So our mission now, instead of being an outsourcing shop, is to teach the companies and to teach software development teams how to use this technology themselves to be very productive and build all those things that they never had time and resources for. And it's very interesting that thanks to this, I was able to finish a lot of my projects that I never had time to finish, because it has completely unlocked my productivity. All the constraints that I had with other software developers, they were just covered by this AI. And of course, the most obvious or maybe non-obvious thing, that the biggest obstacle of being so productive with AI building software are humans, right? The software developers, traditional software developers, in their majority, are threatened by this technology, because it's not clear if this can be done with AI, what all these people have to do. So the biggest challenge for the organizations is going to be, how do we repurpose these people? How do we teach to embrace them, to embrace their AI technology without becoming the problem instead of becoming the solution? So that's what we are doing that's our new offering. And if somebody is interested to talk about it, then please contact me. You can contact me at alexis@apexive.com or on my LinkedIn, and I will be very happy to look into your organization challenges, and we can talk about these AI workshops, and we will be able to make you a good offer. So thank you very much. I think I'm ready for
Thank you, Alexis. And it's been exciting because Alexis helping us with the transformation of the WITI site and seeing all the stuff you're doing. I was a little well, some in the audience may have been. No, it was me. But when you went right to Odoo and just, I think, explaining, because I mean, as I've dug into Odoo, I don't know if that was clear for everybody. And then Maffey may have some questions because you came on video, but.
So yes.
So Odoo is what, right? So when you went to it, which I get, it's like modules that can be plugged in. But
The main point here is that in order to achieve high productivity, in order to build software rapidly with AI, you need to pair it with some established technology or the framework. And we, over the time, we have developed a couple of blueprints. So basically, our go-to patterns and solutions. So if you want to build a mobile app, we use Flutter and we use Django as the backend, just because it gives us, not because this is the best language in the world, but because it gives us the best productivity. If we build something for business automation, we're using this open source framework called Odoo, which is you can imagine it's a combination of Salesforce, HubSpot, QuickBooks, and Asana, and it's all open source. It's all in one database, and it has a lot of ready-to-use building blocks. So instead of, and if you remember, I was talking about rapid software development, that one of the tenets was not reinventing the wheel. So instead of building a solution from scratch, you always want to be going to some established framework. And it doesn't have to be open source, but open source really helps because it gives you a lot of flexibility, especially with AI. And Odoo is just one of these kind of silver bullets or magic bullets for business automation and data cleanup. And that's how it was possible to build this module in 10 minutes. Not only that it was quick, but it was also production ready. And any further functionality I could add, email integration is just one prompt, and so on. So for other things, for example, for mobile app, we would not be using Odoo, we would be using some different framework. But it actually works with all kind of frameworks. And every framework requires different workflow and slightly different approach. And that's why it's very easy to get discouraged by the first couple of tries and say, okay, oh, well, Alex said I can build this software in 10 minutes, and then you have a couple of prompts and it doesn't work. And the conclusion is that, oh, it's not working. No, the conclusion is, as I think Gary Meyer said, if you're not enjoying it, you're doing it wrong. The conclusion is that you're just doing this wrong. You need to find the correct approach that works for your problem, right? And usually, the model, it can be GPT, it can be Claude. Then another thing is the context. If you give too much context, it will not produce good results because you'll have the problem with the LLM attention. If you give too little context, it will be also too free. So finding the things that work, but once you find the workflow that works, it's just amazing. It's you get it becomes so exciting because the productivity itself becomes very exciting, because instead of building feature by feature and coding, you can now engage with building software at a much higher level. You immediately see the results, right? You see how your app is implemented in just a couple of hours, and you can deploy it, and you can test it, and you can iterate quicker. So all the boring stuff that I never liked, all this coding and testing and whatnot, it's now gone. Anybody else?
Wow, that's crazy. Martin put a question in the chat. Is Odoo is like a cheaper version of Boomi? Are you familiar with Boomi?
I do not know Boomi. So Odoo actually comes in two flavors. It's just an open source framework, just like Django, like Node.js, but it's actually specifically suitable for. It has an ecosystem of ready solutions like a business modules. The reason why we use it, because it's open source in Python. It's been over 25 years in development. And it comes as an enterprise and open source version. So yeah, it just ticks a lot of boxes. I'm not familiar with Boomi.
No, that's great. It has like
Andrew?
a Zoom type replacement in there too. that we've
Oh,
been,
it just
right?
has it just has everything. So it's a different discussion. It's about using ERP, so integrated software that does everything, versus using specialized software as a service solution and then having to go through the hell of integrating it all together. But maybe it's a good kind of topic for another time.
Yeah,
And you
Andrew,
see,
go for it. Oh, sorry, please.
You were going to say something, Alexi?
you have your hand raised.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
So
just he said
I do have a question, and it's great to see you, and thank you for a very interesting conversation. So I don't know if it's my imagination, but I think you mentioned something, and I joined late, so I may have missed a part of this. But did you mention test-driven development as a framework that you feed into the AI? And if so, how do you? Have you figured out a way to have AI run tests and look at the results and kind of adjust its own product?
Yes. So as you know, the test-driven development kind of is a thing. You just build the test to understand, to test what is it that you're trying to build, and then you build the code. But quite often it's not used in rapid software development because things are changing so quickly, right? And especially test-driven development becomes really important when you build a version 2 or version 3, when you're changing things, because you don't want to have any regressions, you don't want to break anything. If you're just building something, the version 1, and there's a lot of pivoting and flexibility, then it is not that important. Then I would rather rely on the code quality than test-driven development. And test-driven development quite often misused in order not to have to build good quality code, right? So you just say, okay, I have a test, and I don't care what the engineer does, and as long as the tests are working, I don't care how the code works. And I think it's a dangerous approach, because sooner or later it can create problems. So, but with AI, of course, because everything is so much quicker, it opens the door to build the tests first, and then link then have the AI build a solution. And kind of the same idea that you don't have to worry, you don't have to understand the code that the AI is built as long. However, I think it's a dead end, because I just see exactly the same problem with AI. If you are at the moment, again, who knows what will be in a couple of weeks or months, but at the moment, if I let AI run free, the code gets polluted. So I let the AI do the coding, but I still do all the like critical architect curating of what is built. And sometimes, like through experience, sometimes you have AI build 3 pages of code, and then something that can be done in 3 lines, and you just tell like, hey, but what if you just change it and you use that? And it's like, oh, that's a great idea. And then you end up with the code that you need. Just exactly like my developers, exactly like somebody who just for some reason decided to reinvent the wheel. AI does this as well. So from this perspective, really, AI is a software engineer already, just not an architect, not a good architect yet.
Have you found it
Okay.
retains that info, Alexis, and then won't make the same mistake twice and we'll learn from it?
I don't think the models that we use, the frontier models, I don't think they are at least officially learning in real time. So, and that's of course that's also a great topic for discussion. The models that we use, not that first nobody understands how this really works, right? Even the creator, we just try things. But second thing, because this model, we don't actually know what the companies with these models do behind the scenes, right? So it's a kind of a black box approach. So sometimes I notice that I have 2 different projects that are not related, and I have the project knowledge in both of them separately, and I ask to build something, and it kind of knows what's in the other project, or kind of guess. But as a matter of fact, you know, you can call it prompt engineering. I never liked the prompt engineering, but the skill of driving the AI is mostly about giving the right context, right? It's not so much the prompt, it's about the context that you give in this prompt. And of course, we can open a discussion. What's the context of the prompt? It's the same thing, and all that. It's a good conversation for another time.
Yeah, amazing. All right, so we'll continue.
Thank you.
Anyone? Thanks, Andrew. Great to see you. Anyone else? Dave, it looked like you were dying to ask a question.
Great
Sure.
talk.
Make your comments.
Yeah, it was a great talk. I was going to say, it sounds like I was sort of watching you. I didn't see which ID you were using, but it looks like either there was a script or some feature of the IDE that lets you sync with Claude. Was it?
Yeah, very, very interesting topic for further discussion. I don't think IDE matters really anymore, because I don't want to be coding, right? And that's why I think, okay, well, that's the reason why Copilot doesn't work, and that's the reason why I think Cursor is not going to last. I have a script. I'll share the URL with you. It's a great script. It's a command line that shares uploads the current directory and synchronizes with the project knowledge of Claude, and that's all I need. And to copy paste things back, instead of they magically appear in IDE, I can wrap the response in a shell script that will update my files, or I can copy paste, and copy pasting actually sometimes good in order to stay in the loop.
Cool.
So I don't want AI to be looking at what I'm doing. I want AI to do the job, and I'm looking at what AI is doing, right? And then so I don't want to be in the IDE at all. It's not. It shouldn't be my problem.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Alexis. Amazing. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Any last questions before we go? We do have our music community where we're having Aaron Ellis, who's kind of a software entrepreneur and musician, probably wrote several songs you may know, at 4 or 5 o'clock, the AI Think Tank. Thanks, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.